Coming to you live on SNNLive. We're coming to you live on location from the Weizmann Institute in Rehovot, outside of Tel Aviv, Israel. I'm here with Professor Nava Dekel, and thank you for having us into the Weizmann Institute. It's such a pleasure to meet you.
It's our pleasure to have you here with us.
Well, thank you again. Now, what we're going to talk about is Nava is a professor. We're standing around in her laboratory. So what we really want to find out is what's going on here.
Our interest is focused towards fertility in females. And our experimental model is animals. They are mice and rats, rodents. But we have a very close collaboration with in vitro fertilization clinic in a hospital, Kaplan Medical Center nearby, and big part of our studies is done on human samples, studying daily infertility problems that women encounter, and we are trying to understand what's going on there and try to possibly provide some new modes of fertility treatments.
Now, this is an ongoing process because obviously we know that we're studying basic sciences here in the Weizmann Institute. What have you discovered, and how did you go about discovering something new, if possible, in the world of, women trying to get pregnant?
Yeah. The usual way is to do studies in the lab using animal models, generate some information, and then try to apply it to the clinics. What happened in our case, and it was by total serendipity, was that in order to try and find out some problem, some event that is going on during pregnancy in females, we asked for volunteers, patients of the IVF clinic, that volunteered to participate in a study in which we took a biopsy. This is a routine diagnostic procedure. In order to look at this biopsy and answer some questions that we have. And these women, all of them, had a history of something like 4, 5, 6 and more failing in vitro fertilization treatments. All these women, we got 12 volunteers, all these women underwent a regular IVF cycle at the next menstrual cycle, and out of these 12 volunteers, 11 conceived. And this was a big wow. And then we thought, okay, this might be some kind not realistic, and we extended the group, and we had now 143 females, and then we got again not 11 out of 12, but we doubled the success rate of pregnancy in these patients, in these infertility clinic patients. And so we first had the clinical observation, and now we are back to the bench. Instead of going the usual way from bench to the bedside, we were first at the bedside, and now we are back to the bench and trying to understand what were we doing by this biopsy in the uterus that improved so much the chances of these women to be pregnant, to have a baby. I'm
getting the chills, but so what happened? Keep going.
Okay, so our hypothesis was that what we are doing in that uterus is creating some kind of a wound. Wound is associated with inflammation. Inflammation is associated with an immune response. So we examined these uterine samples, and we found out that they secrete more pro-inflammatory factors, and that they recruit cells from the immune system. So there is indeed some kind of an inflammatory response to our biopsy that facilitates the attachment of the embryo to the uterine wall. Now we are trying to take this information forward and indeed tell the world what is the part of inflammation in normal pregnancy, which is kind of a conceptual change.
That is by far one of the most interesting things. And, you know, I think the fact that you stumbled upon it is pretty much... It's not that rare, because a lot of, if you have the freedom of what they give you in the Weizmann Institute to work on basic medicine, don't you agree that anything can happen?
Yeah, anything can happen, and I have the freedom, you know, to go and choose all kind of projects, collaborate with other institutions, not only scientific or academic institutions, but with clinicians all over the country and here around. And this, I think, this is the way that leads us to finally find or the very exciting generate the very exciting results, and then go back further and look for the mechanistic basis or the mechanistic background for whatever we discovered in the routine life of the clinics.
Now, what is your background?
I graduated at the Tel Aviv University. I was, from the very early stages of my career, I was interested in endocrinology of reproduction. After my graduation, I moved to New York. I spent 4 years, 2 years at the Rockefeller University and another 2 years at New York University at NYU. Studied again female reproduction, more but biochemistry of female reproduction. And then it was in the beginning of 1981 that I returned to Israel and was luckily accepted to the Weizmann Institute. And since I'm here, I was first a senior scientist, then a professor, an associate professor. Now I am a full professor. I also headed this department for the last 6 years. Starting January, I'm a regular member of the department, which gives me more free time to do my science, less administration.
I'm sure that makes you feel better. What brought you back to Israel?
I was sure from the moment that I left Israel that I'm going to be back. That my family was here, my friends were here. You know, when I was in the States, in New York, I had a little girl, and she went to school, and she came back there from school with all kinds of stories about Thanksgiving, the pilgrims that came first to the United States. I had my own tradition, my own stories, and I wanted to be able to share these stories with my kids. And I thought that the best place for me to raise my kids is here.
I understand that. What made you choose the Weizmann Institute over any other place you could have gone anywhere in the world?
In terms of Israel, the Weizmann Institute is the best. And the Weizmann Institute only competes with the best places in the world, the scientific places in the world. And I think that I'm privileged that I was accepted to the Weizmann Institute and can develop my career here.
Now, you've come a long way, as they say. What do you see? What is your vision of the future? Where do you think your science is going to take you?
I hope that my science will going to take me to combine between, you know, life and science, between clinical problems and the basic information that we generated. And I'm very excited of being able to I think that I chose my topic according to this idea, and I think that this topic is, there are so many, especially now in the Western world, when women tend to postpone their motherhood, there are so many infertility problems related, some of them related to age, some of them related to any other kind of pathology. And I think that this the combination between science and real life is a very exciting point in my career, and that's the way I like to go.
You know, I have this feeling that what you're doing, the work that you're doing here, once the word gets out, what you're doing, I think your phone is going to, I think your phone is going to ring off the hook. I
have a drawer full of emails from not only women, but couples. You know, today you don't go to a doctor to get his advice. You read, you go to the web, to the internet, you read the information and you go to your doctor with the information. You tell the doctor what treatment you would like to get. So eventually they read my paper and they approached me. They asked me for the detailed protocol. They go handle it to their physician, and then in some cases I get an email with the picture of the baby 2 hours after delivery from the delivery room. And I have one case, and this, I think, was the climax of my career.
And they named the baby after you, of course.
No. It was baby Hannah in Toronto, Canada.
Now you see, that I had the chills before. Now I'm going to cry. Not really. So that's a major story. Now tell me, what are the students that work in your lab? What are some of the things they're working on?
The other things that we're working on, one of the very interesting question is whether the reservoir of eggs in the ovary of mammalian female is limited, or there is regeneration towards adult life. And there was a paper coming out in Nature Medicine, I think two days ago, claiming that there are some kind of there's a very rare population of stem cells in the ovary that can provide new eggs during adult life, and this is a big thing, whether it can happen or not. It happens in flies, it happens in lower organisms, but
and it happens with women in Hollywood also, by the way.
They use different procedures for that. So it was not planned, but a paper from our laboratory dealing with the same problem came out 2 days earlier, this week, on February 23rd, I think. And we tried to understand this, to search for this possibility. And we didn't come out with such a conclusive conclusion, and we still debate regarding to this possibility. We keep going. We study. One of my students is studying these problems. We're using very highly sophisticated computational tools in order, very unusual tool, in order to try to approach this problem, and we are not that sure that this is the situation. And for that reason, our paper was not accepted to Nature Medicine, because they wanted us to come with a scoop. Is there or is not regeneration of eggs? And we said, we're not sure. And they said, okay, look for other papers. So we published it in PLOS Genetics, which is also a highly prestigious journal. And we're happy that we're more careful.
There's something to be said for that, no question about it. It lends great integrity to the work that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Nava Dekel, This is the Weizmann Institute in Rehovot. We're outside of Tel Aviv. Let me tell you, more interesting interview I don't know if I can get, but I want to thank you for coming on to SNNLive On Location here in Tel Aviv at the Weizmann Institute. So my hand goes to you. Thank you for all of the wonderful work that you're doing. And ladies and gentlemen, go to her website. It'll be listed here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your interest.
No, you're quite welcome.